Hey everybody, Joe Haygood here, aka mclazyj. We're back. It has been a bit since I did a last blog. As a matter of fact, I believe it was like September 27th. We did the Oreo stuff. And I actually recorded two previously and then deleted them because I didn't like the content. It didn't come out well, in my opinion. Partially because I didn't really have something to talk about. So I was like kind of forcing some issues and it was like, eh. Anyways, I do have something I want to talk about today. I want to talk about planes, specifically airfare, man. So, as you're well aware, if you've watched any of these, my wife and I are going on a cruise. I know, mentioned many times. And so, with that, we need to get to Miami because our cruise is going out of Miami, which means, of course, we got to fly there. And we've been waiting for Southwest to kind of release their fare schedule, but we've had like United, we've had Delta, we've had American Airlines, I believe JetBlue's out there. And they're all. I know part of our problem is we scheduled this trip for spring break, which isn't great. Everybody and their mother is trying to get down to, well, anybody under the age of 25 is trying to get down to Florida for spring break in multiple locations: Lauderdale, Miami Beach, South Miami Beach, Daytona Beach, etc., etc., etc. So we obviously, the problem is we picked our cruise because it was the cheapest one to do our leg through the Eastern Caribbean. Now you know why. It's cheaper because all the planes to get there are super expensive. And if we would have scheduled like a month later, wouldn't have made any difference. Cruise would have been $1,000 more, and it wouldn't have really offset our airfare. And you heard that right. Our airfare for a round trip, a nonstop to Miami, overnight red eye, and then a one stop on the way back. And that's just because that flight fit our time frame of when we get back into port, have time to get off the ship, get a bite to eat, and then head over to the airport because our flight takes off around 3 o'clock. That gives us enough time to like that flight fit us. Anyways, neither here nor there. The point is, so those two flights, round trip, two people, it's like $1,200 almost. It was like $1,183, some change for round trip, no meals, main cabin, not like fancy deluxe main cabin or business or select or anything like that. Just main cabin. Pick our seats, bag included, checked bag included. And yes, we're bringing checked bags because, like, that's what we do. I would have gotten the checked bags anyways, even if I'd have done basic. But all basic really saved us was $100 per ticket each leg. And it's like, okay, you say, oh, actually, I'm sorry, saved us $100 round trip each person. So I could have cut it down to maybe $1,000, but I would have had non-refundable fares. I would have had it would have been so many restrictions. I get free bags for anybody that's coming with me. I think up to 4 or 8 people. We each get a free check bag with my American Airlines card. Or I even looked at miles too. 110,000 miles per person, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it was 110,000 to get. No, it was more than that because yeah, it was 100,000 to 110,000 per person. This was going to be $220,000 for a round trip for both. 220,000 points. I can fly to Japan for less points than that right now. 70,000 points gets me one round trip ticket to Japan. 140,000 gets me 2 people round trip. And that's not even on an American Airlines flight. That's being booked through a sister company of theirs, or partner company with JAL, where I can have more comfortable seats because they're more roomy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that it will that these tickets to Miami, a domestic flight, mind you, the other one's an international flight, a 12 to 12 and a half hour international flight, is less right now, excuse me, than a ticket to Miami. It just astounds me how expensive that is. And like, yeah, if we go like a month later, like in May when spring break's all said and done, airfare goes down way a ton. And other people were like, hey, why don't you fly into Fort Lauderdale? Why don't you fly? Like we looked at West Palm Beach. Hell, I even looked so far as to fly into Orlando and then take the Bright Line down to Miami. A 3-hour train ride on a high speed train, which technically is only about high speed for about half to 3/4 of the trip. Once you get down to about West Palm Beach, it's no longer high speed. 125 miles an hour up to that point. So if anybody says bullet train, also if anybody says fastest train in America, they have forgotten about the Acela corridor up in the Northeast between Boston and New York, or Boston and Philly, one of those two places. And that's like 149 miles an hour. It is the fastest passenger train in the United States. And it's still nowhere near as fast. It's like you go to the rest of the world and like their bullet trains. It's like, I got a bit of the yawns. Anyways, I don't know. Like I had like Google Flight stuff, but it kept going up. Like I delayed on booking, and I don't know if I cost myself more money by waiting. But like Delta was like $800 per person. United was like $700 per person. Even Southwest ended up being $1,300 for 2 people round trip. And granted, you get 2 bags checked, but the bag thing isn't really an issue. Like I said, I get free bags one way or another. So, and I still got to go to LAX for all this too. Like I couldn't even go out of Ontario. There were no direct flights out of Ontario. Much as I would have liked to have flown out of Ontario, it's closer, it's easier to get a ride. Whenever you gotta ask somebody like, "Hey, can you drive me to LAX?" They immediately want to grab a drill and just like, driving to LA is horrible. Driving to LAX is a miserable affair, and especially if you're not used to it. Like, I thought about asking my son, like, "Hey, maybe I can have him like drive us to the airport." He's never driven into LAX, and I will tell you, I remember my first driving to LAX. It was a nightmare. I got trapped in the horseshoe twice before I finally found out how to get the hell out of it, and that was before you had the convenience of the 105 freeway, which you just head out the horseshoe, head right on 1 South, which is Pulveda, and you take it right to the on-ramp to the 105 East, which is a loop back onto the freeway. Go under the freeway and around. Super simple. Once you get on the freeway, it's easy, but it's getting in and out. If you don't know it, if you don't understand it, it can be a nightmare. Anyways, that's a whole. Oh man, I apologize. I literally just got the yawns all of a sudden. Anyways, and I get it. Gas costs money, airline fuel costs money, but it's like I'm looking at this, and we're doing a red eye flight. We did that so we could have a full day in Miami when we get down there. We leave here at 10. We land at like right before 6 a.m. We can head to the hotel. We can drop off our bags at the hotel. Have them, check the bags early, just to have them hold it for us while we go do our thing. And the idea is so we can just have a day to kind of enjoy the city. It's like I've never been to Miami before. It's cool. It'd be an awesome thing. I'm a Dolphins fan too, so I can go see the stadium and whatnot. But I, I just, man, excuse me, I'm gonna have to edit all this yawning out. No, you know me, I probably won't. But the, it just seems like I know it was 2 years ago, but we flew to Hawaii at the end of August, beginning of September. Matter of fact, we flew out the day before Labor Day. Or, yeah, because we came back and we still had a day off before we had to go back to work. So we flew back the day before Labor Day. We flew out on a Wednesday last week of August. We were there for 5 days. And I'm telling you, that flight was cheaper. That flight was cheaper than this flight to Miami. It's just crazy. I don't understand it. I don't get it sometimes. Like, and I considered that to be good season for Hawaii. Like, we went there, temperature was perfect, had gray weather. I think we had got rain like one day, maybe two, and even then that was like one day it was like 20 minutes, and then the sun came out. The other day it was kind of a little overcast, got a little rainy. Sun kind of poked its head out, but for the most part, we had we had sun and great weather on the island all 5 days we were there in Honolulu and Oahu in general. But like it was, I'm thinking that's a good time of year to go. I bring up the weather because it's like it's a good time to go. Like it looks fantastic, it's great, the weather's great, and that we flew on that flight so much cheaper than this one that we're flying on now. And again, like I said, 2 years later, technically by the time this thing goes and flies, it'll be like 2.5 years. But the point is, I just I just don't get why it's just getting so expensive to fly. Like we drove to Vegas the last time we went out there in December for my birthday because the flights were horrendous. Like we spend almost $400 to fly out there. And I'm like, yeah, it gets me to Vegas in under an hour, which is fantastic. I'm not gonna lie. Being in Vegas, literally 45 minutes after you step on the plane and you land 45 minutes later, it's great. And it leaves you more of your day. But it just got to a point where it's like, I can't justify that expense. In gas, the only thing that sometimes makes me weigh it out is when you add parking in, because now Vegas freaking hotels, they all want to charge for parking and it's not cheap. It's like 20 or 25 bucks a day now to park at these places for self parking, not even valet, just self parking. You add that up, and with the gas, even then, like, I was like, okay, I filled up a tank of gas, and then we drove out, and then I filled up the tank again before we left. And, so you're like, yeah, it cost me maybe 120 bucks in gas at the most. And my parking fees for, basically 2 days. Because it was like Wednesday and the Thursday and the Friday. And yeah, I just couldn't fathom it. And it's sad because like depending on my experience with Virgin, and I do hope, I know the rumor is that Brilliant Lady will finally kind of reside on the West Coast area and occasionally bounce in between the East Coast and West Coast, maybe during like the winter. But the goal is, I hope to have that ship here, ported in LA, because man, I'll tell you what, this Virgin cruise could be the greatest cruise ever. I don't know if I want to deal with it uh, if I have to fly to Miami again and have to spend that kind of money. It's like, man, this is like $1,200 before I even set foot on a boat. $299 for a hotel room for one night. So it's like, yeah, I'm like $1,500 in the hole, and I haven't even put a foot on the boat yet. So it's rough. Like we're doing that Carnival Firenze cruise in like about 4 or 5 months afterwards, about 5 months after. And man, I'll tell you what, it's like, man, don't have to book a flight. I don't have to book a hotel. I got to pay for maybe 4 days, 5 days worth of parking. Comes out to about 120, 130 bucks. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to justify that expense, man. When it's like you could just take a cruise out of here and I don't have to worry about that cost. And I got cruise lines that are here. You got Carnival, you got Princess, you got Royal Caribbean, you got Norwegian, and I don't know about MSC, but I definitely know the other ones. Yeah, you definitely do. So, anyways, that's all my venting for now. I apologize if the ranting went on for a long time, but man, it just irritated me that when I had to pull this. Because me and my wife, we talked about it too. It's like, well, it seems like it's going up. It's just gonna get more expensive. We better book it now while we can. Because God knows if we wait 2 more weeks, might be another $100. So it's like, and I honestly think it was cheaper if I had have booked it 2, 3 months ago. I was holding off trying to wait for Black Friday, and I don't think it's gonna make a difference. And I do have refundable travel credit on it, so I could theoretically, when Black Friday comes, do the whole thing where it's like, take this, cancel it, turn around, rebook it. But it's like at that point, it's like I got the seats I want. I don't want them to randomly be booked. And then it's like, oh, the flight you want now it's full, blah blah blah. Except that was the other thing. I tried to book one of the flights and it was like, no, it's full. I'm like, I just looked at this like 2 days ago. How the seats were open. Or maybe that was just an American Airlines website glitch or whatever. But anyways, we're booked. Flights are booked. They're on the record. And I mean, it got me a bunch of miles, but boy, it was painful to pull the trigger on that. So, anyways, till next time, thanks everybody for watching. See you next time. Bye.